Hey, Stephen Yanni here doing the Junkyard Crawl in Burnston, Massachusetts at Burnston Auto Wrecking. This is the story of the Slambulance. Okay, bad pun, bad wreck or bad destruction on this third generation International Travelall. But it's kind of weird. This one is an ambulance. It's a half-ton four-wheel drive. Let's dig in. Now here's the thing, the first generation Travelall arrived about 1948. The second generation was very similar to the third, but there it is right there, those weird vertical headlights. But 1961 brought the third gen, which we see right here. Now let's go to the front of this thing first and foremost. Now the third generation was made from 61 to 68, and these came standard with V8 power unless you went for the delete option 6, which we have right here. Now that engine is 240 cubic inches, and this is a solid lifter engine. We can see adjustable rocker arms right here. Those nuts right there allow you to set the lash on the other side. And here's the thing, on the valve cover it says here, valve lash adjustment, 24 thousandths to 26, intake and exhaust, engine hot and idling. So there you have it. Now the V8 on this would have been the 88 cubic inch V8, or 304 was an option. But again, this is the delete option. You got a small credit for going with the 6-banger. Now this one is kind of interesting. It's also a manual transmission, as a lot of these were. And again, this is a half-ton four-wheel drive, as evidenced by the 5-lug wheels. The 3/4 ton would have a 6-lug wheel. But again, here's the International Harvester right here, locking hub, free and lock right there. So you had to get out and get under in order to activate the 4-wheel drive system on this thing here. But again, if this was a 2-wheel drive model, it would not have these leaf springs or a live axle. It would have torsion bars, and they were new on the third generation Travelall from 61 through 68. Now this one's kind of interesting. The delete option 6-banger tells us it was a fleet vehicle more than likely, and sure enough, here is the state seal of Massachusetts. Massachusetts Department of Natural Resources. So this was probably a forestry vehicle of some kind. And again, in that mode, you don't need a V8, and well, probably also an ambulance, an emergency vehicle. Somebody gets hurt in the woods, they'd send this thing out to get them. Before we go to the back, let's look inside. Now it's kind of cool to see here. This is the trim tag, which tells us a lot about it. And again, we see here horsepower, I believe at 130. So that's again the 240 cubic inch 6-banger. RPMs here, it says here at 3,600 RPM, it made 130.3 horsepower, I guess it is. So interesting stuff. And again, this is a, it's an 1100 A, which is to say it's a half-ton. The 1200 would be the 3/4 tonner with 6-lug wheels. Again, this is a 5-lug, a light-duty 4-wheel drive, unusual. Inside, this one has the manual transmission, the 4-speed manual on the floor. The standard 3-speed would have a column shifter, so it does have the optional 4-speed manual, which of course would be a granny gear for low-speed crawling through the woods. Now the seats in this thing are kind of special. Those are provided by a company called Bostrom. Those are thin-line bucket seats, and those are the very same seats used in 68 Hemi Darts, 64 and 65 race Hemi Mopars, and of course also in Dodge A-100 vans. But again, Bostrom didn't sell just to Chrysler, they also sold to International, as you can see it right here. Let's open the back door. All right, so there we have it inside. Here's the patient area, some brackets for maybe oxygen bottles, IV drips, stuff like that. And you got to remember too that ambulances, until the early 70s, were based on Cadillac station wagons, converted full-size station wagons, and things like this. It wasn't until the mid-70s we got into the cube van era of the ambulance, where the attendants could actually stand inside and really deliver some life-saving services. These were more about just keeping you breathing and pumping until you got to the hospital. Here in the back, here's the door opening up. You can see the add-on plywood and linoleum covers for the various benches inside to, again, help people stay alive a little bit until you got to the actual place where you could do some work on a person. So again, the mid-70s brought the more serious cube van style of ambulance, and a lot of lives were saved. But this is better than nothing, for sure, for sure. Getting back to the half-ton nature of this thing, again, we have the 5-lug wheels right here. And this is a Dana 44 rear axle. It's hiding behind this wheel kind of hard to see, but that big 5-lug pattern is specific to the half-tonners. If this was a 3/4 ton 1200 series, this would have 6 lugs. Now, something that's kind of interesting on this thing here, I believe, is up the left front corner. The all-wheel drive badge on these was kind of cool. As we come down this side here, we can see the effects of rust. You know, New England or anywhere in the Rust Belt, you know, rust never sleeps. And not just on sheet metal, but also on die-cast emblems like this right here, the all-wheel drive emblem. See how that's flaking? Well, here's the thing. These were made to a cost. This is actually zinc. It's a pot metal type of an emblem. And when these things are cast, there's actually air bubbles in it, which when exposed to time, moisture, and humidity, they begin to make their way out. They break through the chrome, and that's what happens. They turn to crust, and that's why a lot of die-cast and pot metal emblems that are brand new on the shelf begin to degrade like that. But you expose them to salt water and rust water, and they come apart real fast. But that's a really cool thing, the all-wheel drive logo. And again, here's the other side right here. Both sides, when you put it in 4-wheel drive, you had to get out and hit both corners up front to activate the hubs inside. Those, of course, would engage splines, which then would make the axles come to life and pull the vehicle through the snow or mud. So that's the story of this, well, 3rd generation International Travelall ambulance. Oh, one thing too, I just kind of noticed, on the top of this thing is this weird dome, like a UFO or something like that. This is actually an aluminum structure. It's cast aluminum. It's actually got a vent inside, and that's basically a little air vent inside. So when going down the road, you could ventilate the inside of the back of this thing without getting water, the openings toward the back. So that's actually probably a pretty rare piece for somebody restoring an old ambulance, that thing right there. And if you want to know more about it, you can call Bernsen Auto Wrecking. It's probably for sale. Not that it's my business. But anyway, that's the story of this 3rd generation Travelall with the delete option inline 6 half-ton 4-wheel drive chassis from the Massachusetts Department of the state. Probably an old forestry ambulance, but pretty cool piece. You never know what you're going to find in a junkyard. So be sure to stay subscribed to the Steve Max YouTube channel. There's lots more to come.